Hello. Happy New Year. This is Lo Durbin. I want to welcome you to our brand new series, Awakening Basic Goodness. I can't explain how excited I am, actually, about this particular set of teachings. They come from my work, really, since I started teaching meditation when I was 18, so decades ago at this point. And particularly the focus of the last 5-10 years, but to really go into the immediate past, the last 2.5 years, when I've been working on a book on this topic that is now sitting with my editor, who says it's good, so that's something, and won't come out for another year at this point, but this is the publishing process. But the entire book is just on this topic. So having written a whole book on it, I've often joked in the past that some people will hear something in Buddhism and they will immediately get it. That's one way of sort of taking on the teachings, is hearing. The other is that we would meditate on it, meaning they would meditate and the understanding would naturally arise in our being. And the third would be that we contemplate it. We sort of wrestle with the ideas and let them integrate into our being. So many people, most people, can access these Buddhist teachings, the Dharma, through hearing, contemplating, or meditating. Me, I have to write a whole book on the thing. So that is coming out the other end of that. It feels like, oh, now I really, really understand this in a completely different light. And I can share it in a much more accessible, but also practical way. We're not just talking about a theory when we talk about our course going forward. We're talking about a lived experience. How do we live rooted in an understanding that we're basically good? When, frankly, so many of us walk around saying, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not competent enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough work. I don't have whatever it is. Many of us live from that place of not enoughness. So what does it mean for us to feel completely rooted in feeling enough as we are? There's a story that in the mid-20th century, there were monks in a Thai monastery. They were moving a large clay statue of the Buddha. During that move, the statue fell, and it began to crack open in certain places. And when the monks examined the cracks, they were stunned to see a glimmer of something underneath. They started carefully chipping away at the clay, revealing that there's a solid gold Buddha there. And this is because centuries earlier, to protect this giant gold Buddha statue from invading tribes, it had been covered over in clay to disguise its value. And then people had forgotten and left it as that. So over time, the true nature of the statue had been forgotten until this incident revealed it. And today, people from all over the world visit Thailand to see the statue that happened to have been gold all along. We're very much like this statue. We might feel like we are covered in layers of flaws or imperfections. Many of us are taught implicitly or explicitly that we're not enough as we are. And as a result, we begin searching outside ourselves for happiness and for contentment, looking in a new job or a new relationship or something, anything, to make us happy. But what we're doing is we're covering our true golden nature with these layers of doubt and insecurity. We should just face it. Many of us struggle to feel that sense of contentment. Instead of being satisfied with our lives, we often believe we're missing something. We think we should want more. And this is where the teachings on basic goodness step in, of saying, well, how's that working out for you? Always looking outside yourself for happiness. If it's not working, can we look inside? I should define this term basic goodness. Basic is, in recent years, there's been like a bit of a slander on the word basic. People use it as like basic B, that sort of thing. Like it's the idea that it's not a bad thing. It's something fundamental to who we are. If you prefer, you could use that word, or inherent, or innate, or primordial even. It is just a part of who we are. It's basic to our being. And goodness is not good versus bad. It's not I'm good, you're bad, I'm right, you're wrong. It's not. There's no dualism here. It's just a sense of enoughness, okayness, wholeness as is. So putting that together, if you don't understand the term basic goodness, you can say, oh, am I inherently whole? Am I innately complete as is? Things like that can help us sort of get at the meaning. But we'll continue to unpack this term over many talks ahead. But the idea here is that when we meditate, when we sit down, we're just with the body breathing, as one of the forms of meditation we'll unpack. We actually reveal the most basic part of ourselves. We're sitting there, and we're with the body breathing. And then a thought comes up, oh my God, you know what you need to do? Oh, you're going to lose your job or whatever, and you acknowledge it. And then you come back to the breath. In that moment, when you've cut through the thought, the insecurity, the worry, and you're here, you're just present, there is a feeling of, oh, I'm inherently okay in this moment. That is what we're talking about. That allows us to experience ourselves and the world around us even as good as is. But it's this connection, even in the slightest moment of meditation, when we got out of our own way and we're just, oh, in this moment I'm okay. That's what we're talking about. So the title of this particular talk is The Entire Buddhist Path in One Talk. So it's an ambitious one, but here's the thing. The entire Buddhist path, as I have come to understand it over the last several decades of my life, is that there's sort of 3 steps. So I'll take us through them. Step 1, you discover your basic goodness. Okay? Step 2, you deepen your relationship with it. And then step 3, you live your life through the lens of basic goodness. So I'll unpack these. Let's start with discovering our basic goodness. There's a time, this is just sort of doing the math in my head. It's probably 15 years ago. I was leading a weekend meditation retreat. And sometimes weekend meditation retreats can be hard. And there's a Friday night talk, and then we sit for all Saturday. And there's some talks and some guided meditations and things like that. But overall, it's a lot of sitting. And there's this woman who, I gave a talk at the end of the day. She raised her hand during the Q&A. And she'd done a couple of weekends of meditation before, and she said, so, is this it? I said, what do you mean? She goes, sitting all day, resting with the breath, getting distracted, and then coming back to the breath. Is this it? And I laughed. This is a great question. And I made her laugh too. I said, yes, this is basically it. And I use that term intentionally because we began to talk about this concept of basic goodness. I asked, were there moments today when you felt like you were able to relax and just be present? She nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, absolutely. I asked her what those moments felt like. She said, it felt okay. And it's like, that's it. That's the thing. That's the thing that we discover when we actually meditate. There are moments where we're just, I can just relax and be myself. And in that moment, I am not plagued by my insecurity around the job, the relationship, the ... So this is why, to begin our program, we'll have a heavy emphasis on this particular technique known as mindfulness meditation here in the West. In Tibetan Buddhism, we refer to it as shamatha. Shamatha can be translated as calm abiding or peaceful abiding meditation. And it's the idea here that we're not cultivating peace, we're not churning up peace. It's the idea that we have that within us. We have the sense of calm or peace within us. And all we need to do is let go of some of our preoccupations long enough to abide in that, to rest in that. So that's the technique we'll focus on to begin with, and I'll include a guided meditation with this particular talk on our community website. And the fun part here is that when people actually take my advice, they meditate. They don't just listen to the talks, they don't just read a book and then put it down. They actually meditate. When they do, they realize for themselves that this thing I'm talking about, basic goodness, is not a philosophical idea. It is an experience that they have had. So if you've done meditation before, I actually believe you had this discovery of basic goodness. You've already done step one. You may not have called it that. You might have said, oh, I felt a little peaceful, or I felt calm, or I felt relaxed. But this is what we're talking about. It's relaxing into our natural state, which is basically good. So in meditation, we're not here to achieve, to produce, or even to do anything. We're learning to relax long enough so that we can just bear witness to the present moment in its infinite joy and infinite beauty.